So we have with us Mr. Thomas. Welcome to BW Business World. Thank you. So my first question to you is how Gen AI is shaping India's technological landscape and digital economy?
So, firstly, think of generative AI in some sense as species defining technology. And that way, it's way different from an internet era or a smartphone era. What this technology is giving us is the power of reasoning by a machine, right? And so understand what you end up with something which is so powerful is democratization of access, right? So you don't have to be a top-notch engineer to develop the next cool product. You just need to know how to manipulate this machine or this paradigm called generative AI, right? If you can manipulate and exploit, you're going to build a dope product, which I believe is what every entrepreneur or any product manager needs to do, is to develop minimum dope products. So I believe generative AI that way is going to create a whole set of opportunities along with certain challenges it brings to create the products of the future where whether you are in Israel or the US or India, it really doesn't matter. And with our advantages of having so much data around us, which we can use, we can actually build for global needs through local needs.
So you talked about challenges that they can face. So what are can you please elaborate it about all these challenges?
Sure. If one needs to think about building a product which has generative AI, I would definitely want that person to think about where in the generative AI stack is he going to or she going to operate on. And it looks like a pyramid in terms of the cost associated with that. So the first challenge is really cost. And then that's what I'm talking about the pyramid. If you're building something which needs a hardware specific change, it's going to take a lot of money, right? If you're going to build something which is creating a new foundational model, like a chat GPT, ground up for, let's say, Telugu or Malayalam, right? Ground up, it's going to cost a lot of money. So what one needs to know is which layer in this pyramid is he or she having to work on? Do we have the budgets for that? Do we have the VCs for that? And is it a problem worth solving if it takes so much money, right? So the first thing is about access to capital. And I believe that's a big challenge. I believe data says that 70% of Gen AI startups have not been funded yet, right? And any sort of funding, angel funding, etc. Right? So that's the first challenge. I think the second challenge for us as entrepreneurs is to figure out whether we need generative AI in the first place, right? Just because there's a tool like that doesn't necessarily mean you need to use it. Is generative AI and applying that going to give a superlative experience to an end consumer or an end customer? And yes, this is the technology, right? And the third really I would say is talent. We need to be at the top of the game if we are to join a team and build the next product, right? Just knowledge of models, touching upon application layers may not be enough. Getting down to the nuts and bolts of generative AI is extremely important. Then is where the talent becomes employable. Yeah, so I would say these are the challenges I would see today in India.
So do you think that India's business ecosystem is utilizing Gen AI to its full potential? If not, then how can they use it better?
So, I mean, I'll take a step up and say globally, we're only starting to see potential of Gen AI, right? So we are very far away from saying we are utilizing Gen AI to the fullest. I would just say we're just starting to see the impact of generative AI. And as I mentioned in the while I was speaking, generative AI is very, very different because machines can now think and reason. So from that aspect, I would say that whether it's a traditional business, whether it's something which you have been doing already, like an NLP chatbot, look at ways generative AI can make your customer experience another level, right? Orders of magnitude better. If so, this is the technology. And it will take us some time to really start seeing how much pervasive this should get.
So, talking about India's rapidly evolving digital economy, do you think how much time India will take to compete with its Western counterpart? And do you think that India can become the AI capital of the world?
So I'll take your first question first. Look, I think this is a technology where research and innovation causes applications and experiences, right? If you see that causation effect, most of the research is done in the US, Canada, Israel, and so on and so forth. We are maybe seventh in terms of research in AI, right? So the first thing I would want to say is, before we solve for local problems, before we Indianize Gen AI, let's create that kind of talent which understands Gen AI ground up, and then figure out India problems which can be scaled globally. I'm somebody who believes, as Indians, we are so used to thinking solve for India. So I think time has come where we can solve for India and thereby solve for the world. Okay, so I'm a core believer in that. And so to your point, I think there are societal problems. There are things we can take from here. For example, the cultural diversity in India is something we can see as an advantage, and that could help maybe deploying the model in Europe, let's say, because it's, again, very culturally diverse, right? So use the positives of India and apply it globally. Okay, that's your first question. Can India become the AI capital of the world? I will say that with a pinch of salt. We don't have to necessarily become the AI capital of the world. We can do amazing stuff from here. Collaborate with researchers across the world. We have the talent pool. We have to make sure they are among the best. We have to get highly cited researchers from India first, and then help that sort of research in academia to groom the best of talent. Yeah, so then maybe we start thinking about how we can lead. But I see amazing potential bringing startups and industry changing products and platforms from India.
Thank you so much for your time. Love speaking.